In today's brief video, I want to take some time and discuss 3 things that makes quitting weed very challenging. And this video could apply to quitting weed, quitting nicotine, quitting adult media content, or caffeine, addictions that this channel helps people quit. The first challenge that we face when we're quitting smoking weed is we're making a commitment. And anytime you're making a commitment, your brain is going to automatically focus on what it is you stand to lose. So for example, if you were to invest your money in coaching with my offices, you're going to think to yourself, well, here I am, I'm making this commitment to do this coaching, and I might lose my money. What if this guy doesn't help me? What if I don't get what I was looking for out of these services? I'm going to lose out on that money I invested. When we're quitting smoking weed, I think our brain automatically focuses on losing weed. We're losing that aspect of our life that we used to identify with. And if you're anything like me, weed is part of your identity, especially if you're at the point of addiction. And I think a common problem with this is where you need to reshift your focus is not on what you're losing, but what you're about to gain back in life. If you look at addiction and you look at the different aspects of your life that have been negatively impacted by it, maybe you're already missing out on your finances. You're already missing out on your physical health. This is certainly true if you're suffering from Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome. Maybe you're missing out on your mental health. Maybe you're missing out on time that could be spent developing relationships, time with friends, time with family, time in your business. Now, those are all things that you're going to gain back by committing to quitting cannabis. So if you're struggling with making the commitment to quitting weed and you can't get started, I want you to identify what is it that you're worried about losing and try and dismantle those lies that addictive voice in your brain is telling you, because chances are you're not standing to risk losing anything. In fact, it's quite the opposite. If you continue down this path that you're on right now with this addiction, what is it that you stand to lose or continue to lose in your future? Something that I failed to realize when I was going through this was the actions that I was taking then impacted how I was going to live my life in the future. So you could wake up, you could smoke weed again tomorrow, and you could continue down the path that you're on. Or you could make one small, simple change. That change being waking up and not smoking weed. What you do today is going to impact how you live tomorrow. The second challenge that I think we face when we're trying to quit smoking weed is the fear of, what if my life won't change after I quit? You hear people in sobriety talk about, oh, my relationships are better, my finances are better, all these things are better. But your concern is, well, what if I lose out on this high that I'm getting? What if I lose out on something? What if my life doesn't improve? You already know the outcomes to what you're doing right now. So isn't it worth just trying or investigating what a life without weed would actually look like? I wouldn't worry too much about what if your life doesn't improve, because if you're watching this video, there's a good chance that if you continue down the path that you're on with THC addiction, that's a guarantee things aren't going to improve. I think the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And that's often what addiction promises us. Oh, this time it's going to be good. This time it's going to be better. This time it's going to be like getting high the first time. And we're always left disappointed. We're always left chasing after a high, a feeling, a sensation, something that just doesn't exist, something that addiction cannot give us. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, because it's highly unlikely that if you put in the work to your sobriety and your recovery process, there's a high chance it's going to improve. Not saying it's easy, not saying it doesn't take work. What's the point in continuing to do what you're doing right now if it's, wound you on this video, right? And the last fear that I think we have, what if I make a commitment to quitting weed, and what if I fail? What if I relapse? What if I'm not capable of it? And this is exactly how that addictive voice in your brain wants you to think. quoting Henry Ford, I believe it was, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. So you have to get that negative talk out of your brain. And so what if you fail? So what if you try and it doesn't work on the first time or the second time or the third time or the fifth time? I always joke around and say I think it took me literally hundreds of attempts to actually quit nicotine, THC, energy drinks, and adult media content before I successfully did. But worst case scenario, you wound up in the same place tomorrow that you were into today if you fail. And guess what? You get an opportunity then to try again and keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. And I think that's actually a beautiful thing that we can learn from addiction, especially when we're getting sober and starting that recovery process. Failure is absolutely nothing to be afraid of. We certainly want to do everything we can to avoid it. No, when we're quitting an addiction, it's never justifiable, even though that addictive voice is going to try and justify those failures as many ways as possible. But it gives us an opportunity to experience failure and then to figure out a plan how to overcome that failure. And I've said this in other videos, I think this is one of the greatest gifts I got from quitting smoking weed, was the ability to fail and get back up again. Making this YouTube channel has certainly had many failures, some of which you guys got to watch happen live, like when we first launched our group coaching, or when I first launched one-on-one coaching, or whatever it may be. Failure happens, and developing the skill sets to overcome failure is a beautiful thing. And this is something that can be learned throughout your addiction recovery process and your sobriety process. So you control what changes are going to happen when you quit smoking weed. I don't control that. Other people don't control that. That's up to you. So you can certainly try and do things to guarantee success or take actions that are going to predict a better future for yourself as compared to where you're at today. Anytime we're making a change, there's going to be fear associated with that. I think there's fear associated in many things we do. There was fear the first time I picked up a camera. There was fear the first time I did an addiction recovery coaching call with someone. And the only way to overcome that fear, overcome that stress, is to address it head on. I really believe the things that we fear most in life, minus like, agoraphobia and stuff like that, are things that we need to take head on. And I think that's the easiest way to dismantle that fear. But understand, it's normal. It's normal when you're making a change as big as this, when you're changing possibly your identity, that there's going to be some fear associated with that. Change is never easy, but change is definitely possible. And I think today is a day that you have an opportunity to make a change. So why don't you drop today's date? Why don't you drop today's time if you're feeling inspired to quit smoking weed or quit vaping or quit watching adult media content, and let me know today's the day that you're going to face those fears head on.